Hello everyone. On Sunday, November 16th, 2025, my dad and I traveled nearly 100 miles to Scranton, Pennsylvania in order to see the Delaware Lackawanna Alcos in action. We didn't listen to the one main piece of advice I've always received about the DL, which was to be at Bridge 60 in Scranton at 8 a.m., so we ended up coming across the DL3 or Carbondale Jobs Power idling adjacent to Steamtown, and then I saw a report of PO74 heading east with a quartet of the 6-axle Alcos, prompting us to take off after them, kicking off my first ever chase on the Delaware Lackawanna. Enjoy the video!
150, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Oh, we got a pumpkin on the front.
We went to Tobyhanna station to wait for PO74's return after hearing they were working in Poconos Summit. A huge thank you to Alex, who just so happened to stop by while I was waiting outside in the cold and offered to allow me and my dad into the station despite it being closed on Sundays to warm up since he had a key. After PO74 had passed, we got on the road and chased it down to Goldsboro. I kind of wish I'd gone over to Larson Lake, which was a spot I'd bookmarked, but I wasn't sure how much time I had, so we stopped at the Lehigh Drive grade crossing instead. The lead unit is DL3602, an MLW M636 built in 1970. Trailing it is DL3000, a 1970 M630, 3643, another 1970 M636, and finally 3642, a 1968 Alco C636. It is the last of the 34 C636s built by Alco themselves in the US that survives today. MLW built Alco products for the Canadian market, continuing to produce them even after Alco ceased production in the US in 1969. The line they are operating over was once the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western's Pocono, Maine. The line was built in the 1850s and at one time connected to the Lackawanna cutoff at Slateford Junction, allowing trains to run seamlessly between Scranton and New York City. Following the collapse of the Erie Lackawanna, which itself was a merger between the Erie and the DL&W, Conrail took over the Pocono, Maine. After dismantling the Lackawanna cutoff, Conrail sold the remaining right-of-way to Lackawanna County and Monroe County. Under contract with the Pennsylvania Northeast Regional Railroad Authority, Genesee Valley Transportation Company created the Delaware Lackawanna to operate these lines beginning in the early 1990s. The PO74 has only one empty to take up to Scranton today, despite the decent-sized train they brought down from there this morning. Anyway, as the skies darkened overhead with the threat of more scattered snowstorms, we booked it after the train, going down a long stretch of unpaved road before emerging onto Jubilee Road next to the Hollister Reservoir. Once on pavement again, we rushed into Moscow, where I barely managed to get my tripod out in time, sprinting up the snow-slicked embankment to get up to the platform at Moscow Station in time to catch the train. Now we finally see PO-74 arrive in Scranton, crawling past Myrtle Street as the tracks snake their way along the Roaring Brook and I-81 leading towards Steamtown. A couple hours later, after my dad and I had thoroughly explored Steamtown, we came out of the roundhouse to find the crew of PO-74 finishing out their day by switching the yard, organizing it in preparation for Monday morning. The two 4-axle units, 2409 and 2045, which ran the Carbondale job this morning, are still idling here. And that concludes this video. I plan to return eventually and actually follow the advice I'm given so that take 2 goes better than my first time here. But overall, not bad for my first trip to one of my favorite railroads of all, and well worth the cold to see my favorite locomotive builder's products in action. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. God bless you, and have a great day.